when you don't have money, so the hardest thing to do is make that first money, right? Yeah. Once you make it, now you understand how to do it. Yeah. Now you have the process. But to get there can be tough as hell. Like you said, when you were doing your business, you're like, man, I gave myself 3 months, right, to get this thing popping, right? But that's a privilege to be able to do.
Mr. Javon Wooden, how are you today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you, Sharif?
I'm good. Thanks for coming down. I appreciate it, man. Like, I've watched a few things that you've done, and the topics and things you talk about is like, it's really up my street, Like, I really enjoy the whole mindset thing. And just, for those who don't know, now I've heard about a life coach, I've heard about like mentors and stuff like that, but mindset perception coach.
Yeah.
Explain what that is.
Yeah, sure, man. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on your platform, bro. Love what you're doing. I love the fact that you're educating people and having these conversations that are much needed. So I am a mindset perception coach, like you said, and what that is helping others, one, change the perception of their self and their circumstances. A lot of us struggle with self-doubt, confidence, and esteem as a whole, and we don't understand that we are capable of so much more. So what I do is I help my clients stop playing it safe and stop being stuck in their past mistakes and in their past traumas, allowing them to get past where they are and focus on the now, being mindful, and also focusing on a better future. Mm-hmm. So I always say I help my clients design a life they don't need a vacation from. And that's a mindset shift from scarcity, which is lack, coming from a place of, belief that you can't or don't deserve something, to a place of abundance, to a belief that you are supposed to live a life of fullness, supposed to live a life of joy, and not just settle.
Okay, so in terms of like your clients, what do you actually do? Do you like kind of mentor them? Do you like have virtual meetings where you like constantly on top of them to make sure that they're going in the right directions? Like, how is it structured with you?
Yeah, sure, great question. So one of the things is accountability. Yeah, right, holding them accountable. If they say they want to achieve a goal, first and foremost, it's important to know that I am not setting the agenda. Mm-hmm. The agenda is set by the client. Okay. So if they tell me, hey, I have this goal of reaching X, then that's what I'm gearing them towards. Okay. So I do a mixture of consulting and coaching. Mm-hmm. So the consulting piece is if I see a clear path to go ahead and get where they're going, I would say, let's try this. Let's do these certain exercises to get you over the hump. So now you can focus on things and have that path forward. And then the coaching piece is the powerful questions, asking them, what are you stuck on? What have you tried? What are you hesitating? Just powerful questions to get them thinking and really getting them to a resolution that aligns with their beliefs and who they are.
Okay. So a little bit about yourself. Now, I understand that you were facing 7 years in jail, right?
That's correct.
And that was really the transition point for you, right?
Yes.
Now, why do you think that people want to learn the hard way in order to become an achiever?
Yeah, and that's another great question, man. You are spot on with these, man. I love it. So I don't think people want to learn the hard way. Yeah. It's just that a lot of times when you're in it, you cannot see that there's other options, right? Because you're so close to the fight. And that's the benefit of a coach at all levels, right? If you think of a sport, there's a coach who can see what's happening on the field if you're talking about football, and that player who's executing, sometimes they just don't know. They're telegraphing their pass or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing in life. Right. A lot of times we are so close to things that we cannot see that there's other ways around it because that's consuming our thoughts. So when you're stressed, a lot of times you can't think clearly because that's our primitive brain operating. So the part that's human, the part that makes us unique, the parts that makes us be able to create and innovate is the cortex. Mm-hmm. If it never reaches the cortex, now we're stressed. And that's what happens. When that stress hits you, when that adversity hits you, a lot of times it's the primitive brain that comes up through the spine and hits the back of the head, back of the brain, and that's where it stays, right? So we can't really analyze properly. That's why a lot of people say, man, it's so easy for me to solve other people's problems, but I can't solve my own. It's because you're in it. So that's why you need someone who's objective to say, hey, this is what's happening right now. This is what you're focused on. We need to shift you. We need to shift you and allow you to see that there's a path that you can take to get out of where you are to go where you need to be.
Mm-hmm. And now, coming like your mindsets and everything, it's also like it's almost like building new habits and stuff like that, which requires discipline. Now, you were in the military, right?
Right.
How long did you serve for?
12 years.
Okay, so good stretch.
Thank you.
Do you think that built up your discipline?
Yeah, I think it helped tremendously, man. I'll always say this: like, if it wasn't for the military, I don't know where I would have been, because the fact of the matter is, I was in that time where I thought there was no other options, and I thought I had to wait for opportunities to come to me, and that waiting is dangerous because you don't know what's going to happen in that time. So I decided to create an opportunity to join the military. That was my last effort, so to speak, to say I don't want to go back to this life where I'm facing 7 years in prison, where I'm willing to, risk everything just for a couple of dollars. That's not what life is. So really, that discipline that I learned, that it instilled in me, was more than just, the discipline of waking up each day and all that other stuff. It was the discipline of being able to face adversity. It was the discipline of being able to say, hey, don't stay here, right? Don't stay here. Acknowledge what's going on, and you got to move forward because the mission is not complete, right? And that's, so to speak, in military terms, right? The mission is not complete, so we have to keep going. And that's what it really instilled in me.
Mm-hmm. And like life before the military, what was life like before the military?
Life was tough, man. Life was tough. You mentioned the 7 years, facing the 7 years.
Yeah.
That was when I was 17 years old, right? So even after that, after I graduated, trying to go through college, I couldn't afford it. And it was just really a struggle getting a good job, right? So I was working 2 full-time jobs until I registered for the military or signed up. I worked 2 full-time jobs. I had no free time to invest in myself or what I love. I didn't even know what I love because I was still struggling with that self-love at that time. So it was really tough, man. There was really no joy because I was so focused on the negatives and what I didn't have. So it wasn't until I left and seen the beauty in life and started focusing on those positives that I was able to start my journey of ascension, as I like to call it.
Do you think breaking away from, like, for example, just say, like, I live in this area, there's a lot of, like, the bad energies, like even myself, I've not come from like a very strong background, I grew up, it was kind of a struggle. Even myself, I went to jail a few times, got myself in trouble. And it was, it was almost like a cycle because since I was 24, I was, trying to, like, I've always had this thing in my head of questioning things, and wanting to achieve more. And over the last, I want to say 5 years, I've been trying to do business, okay?
Right.
So prior to that, I was, in the streets, doing all of those kind of things, and even just working like the bottom level jobs. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's kind of hard to make things happen. But again, it is perception. But so I first of all started like a trucking company when I was 24. That kind of field I got ripped off quite badly on that one, which set me back, and then bounced back. I would go through like these up and down phases.
Right.
I always had the mindset of I'm gonna achieve something. Then the second business came along. It was a food business. It was like a takeout, and also that failed as well. And then every time I would hit like a low point, I would go into depression, go into like consuming drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, just to escape the reality. Do you know what I mean? My point is when I picked myself up out of that situation and left, like completely, I don't want to say cut everyone off because I have family like from the UK.
Yeah.
I moved to America, and I created a new environment for myself.
Yep.
And I started putting myself around different circles of people. Okay. I started like connecting with different types of people who are like-minded. Because before it wasn't. Everyone would look at me and be like, "Oh, you have this crazy mindset.
Yeah.
That you want to
What
achieve."
are you doing?
Yeah. It's like you want to achieve so big things. It's crazy. It's like a one in a million. And it's like, I mentioned it on the other podcast. It's like, I can read a book that teaches me how to sell lemonade, and I'll make that money from the lemonade. And if you read that book, you would also learn the same thing.
Right.
It's just that step of taking that action to actually educate yourself.
Right.
So since I've come to America, I've been cut off from those negative energies of like scarcity, and I've literally been around people who have this abundant mindset of I can have it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And it's been a quite successful run here. You know, the first year I was, finding my feet here, getting settled. I told you I had a private security company.
Yep.
I did work with a private security company for the first 18 months or 16 months I was here, and started at the bottom and quickly learned my way up to the top, learned everything, and then I launched my own. And this year has been quite successful.
That's what's up. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. And so it's like breaking the cycles that I was in and removing yourself from the environment. Like, how important is that? Becoming, would you say that people are to blame for their own actions? Because even if I was to go back there now, I would know how to conduct handle myself
right
around these certain energies and peoples, and even the mindset. It's like, okay, I need to do this and that way. So being a product of your environment versus blaming yourself. How would you compare those two?
Yeah, so that's so what I would say is, when it comes to that, you're right. Sometimes you have to change your environment, because if you have that negative cloud and that cloud of despair, and you're around people who just they're hopeless at that point, and when you get that feeling and you're looking at this and you don't see anyone who's successful, you don't see anyone who's made it out. And I was in the same situation when I was younger, right? When you grow up in poverty, you grow up in these dilapidated houses and all these other things, then that's what you see. You see the negativity, you see the hurt, the pain, and you can't really focus on anything else. So that shift to go somewhere else, where you're like, all right, I know there's more. There's more to the world, and salute to you for continuing to go and do things, because you knew you wanted more out of life. You knew that you could. You just were trying to figure out how, right? And that's a big piece too. Like, that mindset of saying, I know there's more to life, right? How do I get it? Not, I don't have this, I'm not good enough. How do I do this? And that's what you did, right? So when someone is stuck in those environments, it is very beneficial to go ahead and change who you're around and who you're with. Somebody who stretches you, someone who believes in you, someone who's done some great things, someone you can learn from and educate yourself with, right? So it is amazing to do that. I always say, even if you had friends you grew up with, and they're still in the same situation, you can love them from a distance.
Literally,
right? You can love them from, literally love them from a distance and be like, hey, I'm on a path to growth, right? I'm not staying here. If you want to come, hey, here's some of the things I've done. Here's some of the materials. You read it, like you said. I give you the same books and same stuff that I had, the same tools, and you do with it what you want, right? So it's very important. And I always say, we don't want to be products of our environment. We want to be products of our efforts, right? Which is what you are. You're a product of your effort. You said, I'm going to try these businesses. Hey, this one failed. Okay. This one failed. Okay. This one failed. And now you hit. Now you're like, okay, see, I knew there was something. And now you can go back and, there's other ways you can give back, right? You're giving back now with this podcast. You give back with your time. You give back with maybe you donate to some charity in your area. So that's one of the things that's so important. A lot of times we feel guilty for succeeding, right? We feel guilty because we are the ones that made it. But to everyone who's made it out, do not feel guilty. Leverage that. Leverage the success you've had and the success that you've created for yourself, and then you can go ahead and start changing things, right, through your own methods, like charities and time and all that stuff, like I said before, and which is probably what you do, right? You're not there, but you can plant those seeds, right, to make the next generation better. Or maybe some of your friends see what you're doing and now they're motivated. See, so there's no need to feel guilty about changing where you are and becoming successful, because that is a way to leverage and then impact others.
Exactly. I 100% agree. Did you ever have a mentor through your transition period?
Yeah, so a lot of my mentors are what I call virtual mentors.
Okay,
right? Yeah, they don't know me. They don't know who I am, but something they've done has really bigged me up. And, one of the people physically that I had was one of my first bosses who gave me my shot in cybersecurity. Right, he hired me. I'm sure there were more, experienced people, but he said something about you, your personality, that you can't find that. And that has become one of my mentors, So shout out to Russ. He knows who he is. I can't say that I had a bunch of mentors though.
It was more of like someone you idolize, basically, like an author or a actor or something.
Right, something they did and something they represented really pushed me to be better.
Yeah, the what's his name? Damon from Shark Tank.
Yeah, Damon John.
Yeah, he says the same thing. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He was like, that's my mentor. I never met him, but I read his book over and over and over again, and I feel like I can say that's my mentor. I learned from him. So
100%, man. You create your table that you're sitting at.
Literally.
Right. So like thinking about Napoleon Hill, in one of his books, he literally acted as though he was sitting with the people he wanted to sit, and that's how he wrote the book. All right. So you can do the same thing. Like if you think, who would I want to be getting information from? The Muhammad Ali's, the Barack Obamas, whoever it is, Jay-Z's, whoever it is for you, right? You can be sitting at the table with them, and in a way you're doing that is you're reading things from there, you're learning from them, you're listening to their information, why they thought the way they did, how did they get to where they're going. So it's really cool, man. Like we are in the information age where we can literally at the click of a few buttons, we can literally find out information, whatever we want to know.
Do you know who Joe Dispenza is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like his whole thing about living in the energy of your future as opposed to energies of your past.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think that's awesome.
I love that
because it's like it's so simplified, and it's like if you go through a bad past or whatever, and then you you hold on to it, and you just think, oh, I've been through this negativity or this failure, and you just hold on to the failure as opposed to, no, I feel like I've made it, or like on the way to making it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah,
100%.
I really like that guy. He's he's really inspirational.
And that's powerful, man, because you think about like looking at the future. You're just imagining that, and there's power in that. Like imagining yourself succeeding can take you so far. Yeah. If you think about athletes, when they ask them about pressure situations, how did you maintain your cool and your calm? And that when you had to hit this game-winning free throw or this game-winning field goal, whatever it is. And a lot of them will tell you that that's not my first time. I visualized myself a million times before I even took the first shot, right? And that's the power in that, right? If you've seen yourself succeeding, your mind can't tell the difference between the real and what you perceived. So your mind was already conditioned to do that, and that's the power of looking at for your future, right? So I love that too.
Why do you think that people who want to be achievers are seen as it's weird? It's like, why are they seen as special? Like, as opposed to the regular person who works a regular job, living paycheck to paycheck. Why are they seen like? Do you think that they're like conditioned to just be like static and non-achievers, and like the people who just want to live a better life? It's not all about being the richest guy or whatever. No, it's about being happy or whatever. But it's like, why do you think that like society is that way? Where achievers are considered like special. And I think one of the things that I always like to be careful with is like success. Everyone has their own definition of success. But I think what it is that society looks at when they see someone achieving, a Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or somebody like that, is the fact that you have to think about all the things that they've gone through to get there, right? All the no's they've seen, all the people telling them they were crazy, all the people saying you can't do that. That's why I would look at them and be like, wow, that's pretty impressive, right? Because when you hear the stories, even if they did come from money or any, that's not because a lot of people do. But what separates those achievers, those people who went and they followed their path and their dream and their purpose to no end, they never stopped, right? I think that's what makes it special, is the fact that you're saying, hey, I don't want to just live this average life. I don't want to do this because I know that I've seen man walk on the moon, which was once seen as great. Now we're shooting for Mars, right? Yeah. I know that there are amazing things that people once said were impossible that can be done. So why can't my idea be a thing? Why can't I go ahead and succeed like that? And I think that's what really holds them to a higher regard because of that. Because they went and they said, I'm going to make this possible. I'm going to turn the impossible into a possible. And that's the difference, right? Especially, you hear people love success stories, right? So if you hear someone coming from, a background such as yourself or me, and now you see them doing great things, it's about the adversity you've gone through,
right? And that's what it is. You talked about how a lot of people are just happy with their jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe, and being an entrepreneur is not for everyone.
No,
right?
definitely.
It's not for everyone. It's not for the faint of heart, really. And you wear a lot of hats when you're doing these things. So I really think that's why people hold them and they're like so impressed, because it's easy to fall into a pattern. It's easy to fall into that safety of having that set job and all that stuff and knowing what you're going to do each day. But when you're an entrepreneur, you don't know. You don't know what that day's going to bring, and you're really just going and doing things and learning as you go. And I think that's what's unique about it.
100% agree. Now, the whole finance thing, like, do you think that finance, somewhat, not having money, but finance itself plays a big role in the ability to achieve?
It can.
Yeah.
For sure, it can. I mean, like, look at us. Like, if you don't come from money, a lot of times you have a bad relationship with it, right? A lot of times when you get it, maybe you blow it. Yeah. Maybe you're scared to invest in yourself because you're like, I don't know if this is a good thing. You think about people getting over on you, right? So it's really about the mindset of money.
Yeah, the first, time I came into money, I think it was, early 20s. I had made a good amount of money, and honestly, I made the stack, and it was gone within weeks.
Exactly.
I thought, okay, cool, 5 figures, this and that, chilling, and just start spending on everything, and then once that's depleted, it's like, yo, I'm back to where I started. Yeah. But because the average person, they do live paycheck to paycheck. They do. They do enough to just survive, and anything extra they do have, they would spend it on trying to make themselves feel better. Right. Until it's time to, go back to work or whatever.
It's a vicious cycle, man.
And, do you think people make excuses in that regard? Because, people can go to Starbucks every day and, I'm a strong believer of, it depends what place you're at, but, don't control your expenses, just make more money. It's easier said than done, but, I look at business as a game now. It's just a case of putting things in the right place and, you coordinate stuff, and as long as you get the job, then you're going to get paid. But, instead of someone, say, for example, not saving their money and stuff like that, because time is, you trade your time for money, and, so do you think people make excuses instead of, trying to, put money aside and save and, try and find some way out? Because that's what I had to do. I had to work for the best part of 18 months and save. Nobody handed me anything. I had to save as much as I can and then invest into, making a company. Right. And, even when I started the company, I gave myself a 3-month window of, I'm not going to be earning for these 3 months. So I've got enough of a cushion to be able to survive and just go as hard as I can, get in business basically. Right. And, it was getting towards the end and I was thinking, I'll start looking for jobs. And I was just it was about 3 weeks left and I was like, no, I gave myself a deadline, so let me just work to that. And, started coming in and then the momentum happened and, you just keep going and whatnot. But do you think people make excuses? Because, we both come from similar backgrounds where, nobody gave it to us. We had to make it ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So I think the thing you said before was the maximum effective range of an excuse is zero. Right. Yeah, and you're obviously a strong believer in that.
Yeah, 100%.
So excuses are... so you think people make excuses basically? Because see, the thing is, it's nobody told you had to go and become this achiever. Do you know what I mean? Right. It's a case of, people have to get up and do it themselves.
When I see excuses, a lot of people just don't know they have options, right? Again, when you're in it, when you're stuck in it, you lose that hope that things can change. And I think that for people to really get out of that hopelessness and that feeling of just this is what it's going to be, they have to believe in themselves. And when you lose that belief in yourself, then that's when you just get into that routine of this is how it's going to be. I don't know how to change it, right? I've been in this for so long. right? And until you see something, maybe you get a glimmer of hope, maybe you get an idea, maybe you get that, and that's what it's about. There are people who do make excuses. They absolutely have the resources to invest in themselves to learn what they want to do. They absolutely have the time available to go ahead and take a course or start the business, but then they say, oh, I'm kind of tired, whatever it is going to get in the way. Mm-hmm. That's an excuse, right? But some people legitimately have a reason why it's so tough on them. They really, we've been there. Right? It was like when you grew up without money, when you don't have money, so the hardest thing to do is make that first money, right? Yeah. Once you make it, now you understand how to do it. Yeah. Now you have the process. But to get there can be tough as hell. Like you said, when you were doing your business, you're like, man, I gave myself 3 months, right, to get this thing popping, right? But that's a privilege to be able to do. Exactly. Right? We, now we're in places of privilege where we can go ahead and try different things and see it. And if it doesn't work, we're not hurting, right? We're still able to do what we need to do. But people who are stuck in these poverty-stricken homes and all that other stuff, it's really tough because you're like, what are my resources? And I went through this when I got out of jail. Like, what do I have? I don't have any money. And now I know that money is a vehicle, but money is an important vehicle. Yeah. Right? Because once you get that first dollar, now you're like, okay, I can use this to invest in my future. Right? And you mentioned people trade time for money. Yes. So I always say the difference between a high achiever and someone who hasn't quite gotten to where they're trying to go is a high achiever works for time. You want to use your time towards what you really love and your passions and what you feel will move the needle forward, right? The others who are still trying to find their way, they're working for money. So they have to get that money. So they're trading a lot of their time, 40 hours plus, to get, just a little bit enough to pay for their bills. And that's what's so hard. It's like they don't have the energy because they're draining themselves trying to keep up. And I think that's what the thing is. It's not really making excuses for people in those situations. It's just the fact that they don't know how, and that's the key. And
so what is some proactive steps that someone can take to actually start shifting the mindset? Because if their brain is wired a certain way to think that this is all I can have, what can they actually proactively do? I know you talked before about routines.
Right.
So what are some proactive steps someone can take to start giving themselves that shift?
Yeah, 100%. One thing is to start, scheduling important tasks. Like if you know that you're tired of where you are, schedule some time to learn. Schedule some time to educate yourself. The other thing is identify your values. What really matters to you? What's your why? Why do you want more? What are you going for? Identify your goals. What your definition of success is. Because if you're going for someone else's definition of success, your chances are you're not going to go as hard, and it's not going to mean much to you even if you got it. You got to find what really matters to you and what your definition of joy and fulfillment and purpose would look like in your life. Another thing you have to do is start practicing gratitude. If you're always thinking, man, I'm always in this situation, I can't get out no matter what I do, you're downing yourself. And you're keeping yourself to a point where you're not going to try new things. So you have to change that and say, what can I do in order to change my circumstances? And I like to tell people to take an inventory of their strengths. What do you have? What unique skills or what message do you have that you can leverage? Because a lot of times, we have social media now. Right, which is how we connected. We have social media. We have platforms that allows you to reach thousands of people you've never met and who never knew you in the blink of an eye. Start leveraging that. That can change your whole situation. There's people who were down in the dumps, but they took to their phones and just recorded videos of what was going on in their life. They talked the motivational method. Next thing you know, now they're blowing up. So you just got to find what works for you. Where are you trying to go? And then how you're talking to yourself. And then the next thing is be very intentional about where you're putting your energy. If you work 6 days a week, but you have that seventh you're free, no matter how tired you are, you need to be using that day, right? Every hour that you have that's considered downtime, you got to take at least a couple of those to change your situation. and start reading, start educating yourself, start listening to podcasts, start watching YouTube videos, start doing all these things to reframe, and cleanse your social media, because a lot of people, they follow things that don't add any value.
Yeah, it's almost like the social media becomes like a digital life, like digital escape.
And it's a distraction.
Yeah, and it's like, I used to get so distracted by social media, but if you use it as a tool, it's very effective. If you use it as a way to escape this reality,
right, it'll suck you in, man. And next thing you know, those hours of downtime that you had after working 16 hours, that 17th hour that you were going to use for something productive, now you just wasted it.
Yeah.
So you have to really start acting like the person you want to be, not the person you are. And I think that's really key.
Okay, cool. So this is your book here, Own Your Kingdom.
Yes, sir.
What brought you to start writing a book?
So writing a book was always something I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Now, this book I didn't know was going to come about. Okay. And I'll tell you why. It was not on my roadmap to do, but I saw a book coach. Her name was Taria Avant, and I was like, yo, that's cool. Write a book. And her thing was write a book in 3 days, get it out and all that other stuff. And I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I signed up for the book. I invested in myself, right? Signed up for her coaching program, and I wrote this book in 3 days. Uh-huh. And I didn't know what I was going to say, but I legit felt like God gave me the words to say, and that's what made it possible for me to put this out there. Now, I've always wanted to write a book because I know what I've gone through, and I know I'm not the only one. I know there's literally so many, 85% of people on this earth have struggled with self-esteem in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. That's almost 7 billion people walking around right now who cannot live in their purpose fully because they don't believe in themselves, right? So imagine that. So that's what this book came about. That's why I wrote it, because I know how important it is to get that message out, to change lives. And that's not only for you, right? When you feel like you're happier, when you have more joy in your life, you can be more compassionate. And now that trickles down into how you treat others, what you do, your values, and all the other stuff. So I know the power of that. It really exponentially creates more joy in a bunch of different people's lives. If one person reads this book and they're like, okay, I'm going to go for that goal that I set, that I was holding it back because I was afraid to believe in myself and invest in myself. And then they change. Now they go ahead and invest and do volunteer work and do whatever the case may be, because they're in a better situation mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? So that's what I wanted to cause. I wanted to cause just an avalanche of joy, an avalanche of purpose, avalanche of people being bigged up and lifting up and understanding that, you have the power. Sometimes you just have to start looking and having that introspection to say, where is it? Where can I find it? Mm-hmm. And then once you do, now we got that success. You can have success in perpetuity once you get that one time.
One thing I really enjoyed about the book was how digestible it was. Like, it's not overwhelming to read. It goes down really well, and it's explained. It's explained really so simple. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's really digestible. Some books, Think and Grow Rich, I've read that, and that's quite a hard one to digest.
Right.
But this one, it just went down so smooth, and I really enjoyed it for that.
Thank you.
And I like the references you used, like Henry Ford, in the early portions of it. One thing I like about Henry Ford is the fact that he. It's weird to say, because like I know someone here as well who's very similar, and they're quite well off. And it's that it's that mindset of I can and I will have it, and it just works, And it was the thing with I think it was the V6 engine, when. All his engineers or whatever, or mechanics were saying, it's impossible.
It's impossible.
And he's like, no, I will have it. I want it. So go and do it. And
you're right.
It was a couple of years or something like that until it eventually happened.
Yep.
And it's just a case of, it's persistence as well.
It's persistence, yes. Yes.
It's just like, if I quit going for business after my first business failed,
where would you be?
I'd be working some normal job, man.
Exactly.
And it's like, you got to keep knocking the door. Knock that door down. That one closed on me as well. Keep going, and eventually something will click, and that's what it is. But so tell the viewers, where can they find this book?
So you can go to oykbook.com, and you can just go ahead and download it, and it has a workbook that comes with it for free. There's like 20 plus exercises in there to really get you on a path, and I mention it in my in the book, like where you can download it, what it does, what's the purpose of the exercise. So it's just really a resource.
Yeah, because I did notice that there was notes, a place to take notes throughout the chapters, and it's really good because it's almost like a workbook, you know.
Exactly what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, so it's like not just some information; it's something that you actually work on.
Right.
And it's like you can work on the first portion, second, and progress. And as you progress, you obviously build up the the techniques and habits of actually doing it.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so let's wrap it up with this. What is your dream?
My dream is really what I envision impacting 80. That was 85%. I want to cut that at least in half by the time this is all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to understand the power of belief.
Yeah.
I want people to go ahead and design that life they don't need a vacation from. Change their mindsets to abundance. Understand that abundance is not a bad thing, right? When you get that abundance, now you have overflow and you can pour into others. So I want everyone to see that. I want the world to be more compassionate. I really want us to work together in order to make this place better than when we came in. Mm-hmm. Right, so that's my dream.
Awesome, sounds good. And just last thing, just let everyone know where they can find you, contact you, what you got going on right now.
Yeah, 100%. So you can find me at livenotloathe.com. That's livenotloathe.com. And you can also find me on all platforms, IG, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, Live Not Loathe. And you can catch me. I'm having YouTube videos every Thursday and Sunday. I'm actually speaking at a few conferences. So just search me, and I'll have that posted on my website. And they're free. And I'm also working on a podcast. So when I have that, I got to have you on, Sharif.
I'm coming down, man. I'm there. I'm there, man. And also one more thing. We're actually giving away one of these books. So the way to enter and get yourself into a chance of winning this book, it'll be signed by yours truly here.
Yes, sir.
It'll be everything will be linked in the description. All the instructions will be down there, and you can all his links will be in the description to follow him. So make sure to check that out. Like, subscribe, comment what you think. It's a great guy right here.
Thank you.
A lot of gems dropped today. So there'll be a lot of content going out on TikTok and Instagram for this one. But I appreciate you coming down, man.
My pleasure, brother. My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and appreciate your platform once again.
All right, man. Thank you.